like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, heck, we're even on TikTok. We're excited to engage with you. We hope you'll join us moving forward.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to the show, The Market Mindset. Austin, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Christmas week.
It is. It's a Christmas week. I hope people get into this spirit. If you've, got to figure out if you've been naughty or nice. If you've been naughty, maybe that's not so bad because you'll get a lump of coal. I mean, coal's been going through the roof.
It might be worth more than the presidents could have totaled out to. So
if
you're an economist, maybe.
Yeah, this whole talk for years about we're shutting down coal, and look at what we've got. So we've talked about that a couple of times, and it's either planned catastrophe, which they're creating, or complete incompetence at work, at play. I like to think it's a bit of both.
But it's got to be a bit of both.
A little bit of both. But anyways, we try, other than having a bit of laugh, because really at the end of the day, you have to have a bit of laugh at a lot of this stuff, because if you take it too seriously, most of what you're going to find on mainstream news is not very serious. It's not real. It's kind of degraded into the realm of, what do you call it? Like what the old National Enquirer used to be. That's kind of the realm of the world we're dealing with most quote unquote news out there. Yeah. And at least people are starting to recognize it. I mean, it's, for whatever motivation, I don't care the reason why. People always want to go, well, why would someone do? I don't care the why. It's easy to find the actual data out on all of these things that are major headline news that they go on about, and you'll find that the actual data is often the exact opposite of what's being pitched on any of these channels. So with that in mind, that offers a lot of opportunity, but also because, I mean, even if something's not efficient or effective or anything else, if you know trillions of dollars are going forward towards it, you'd be a fool not to chase after it with the crowd. Yeah. And we balance all of those things when we look at our year ahead, and we'll be coming out with how did we do the year past here, coming up to now with some of the companies. And, for our subscribers, we're going to give a hint as to what the year ahead, where we're kind of focused and looking towards. And we'll build out our business as well. But more importantly, we want to include as many people and get feedback too, and to also do a lot of the free education and free that. So if you've got any suggestions that you want to learn more about something or have certain guests on, we usually have a pretty good chance of getting some pretty important people, pretty smart people on. So let us know. We can try to make it happen. And this week, we've got some news to try to catch up on, but maybe you can kind of take us off and talk to us a little bit about some of the headlines out there, that are floating around.
Well, I think kind of the biggest headline that'll be out there right now will be a lot of people focused on this, the fact that the Build Back Better plan in the States isn't going to get passed because of Senator Joe Manchin. And whether you agree with that or not, I mean, it's incredible that one guy can basically hold up a $2 trillion spending package, but hey, that's the way it works in the States. And I think the market's going to react to that. I mean, we've seen a bit of a slide already early today. It could kind of do that over the week anyways, but it's interesting to see that they weren't able to get this thing over the line, and it'll be even more interesting to see what their kind of next step strategy is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they cut out a lot of the political stuff and they actually just focus on actual infrastructure, they would get a lot more response. The problem with all of these things are boondoggles, right? Like it's, this is the ugliness of politics when you see that. And I'm not picking on either party or any country, because you'll find it just as much in Canada, you'll find it in Europe, is that they become these 1,000-page documents where it's kind of like when you open up you get an Apple iPhone and it's like 70 pages of, do you agree to this? And you think, oh my God, I'm just using this to listen to music. What? How could it be 70 pages of fine small print? Because you're signing your life away. That's why. All the data, everything you say, it's accumulating data, and they know you're not going to read it. So this is how these bills go: is they assume no one could read all of it, right? Mm-hmm. And even when they give it to their teams to go, you read this 100, and give me a report as fast as possible. That you try to do. They hide so much nonsense. And this is the problem, is that the funding programs, these extreme far left funding programs, are ridiculous. So like funding CRT, funding like extreme left communist kind of ideologies, this type of stuff is not going to let anyone fly. And why that should be in an infrastructure build, like a Build Back Better, is beyond me. They try to conflate that social building back better is the same as building up your country. And to some extent, sure. Okay. Yeah, there's got to be some there. But when I looked briefly at it, there was some exceptionally strange things in it that shouldn't. And one wishes that you could just get a lot of this absurd political stuff out and just go, we can all just agree that we need infrastructure. So let's get a number and let's do it. And we'll fight over the other stuff instead of trying to hide stuff in. Because once you start hiding things and sneaking in, and both parties do it, so I'm not picking on one or the other. It's whoever's in power will do the same thing. It makes it that, it's easy then for the media to go, oh, they're holding it up because they hate people. The Republicans hate to help people. And then, or the Democrats, just like to spend money and they don't care about the economy. That's not true. It's because there's things literally in there. And they also they're quite comfortable knowing that people aren't going to go research. They're not going to go find out for themselves because they're not really that motivated. I mean, people have got their lives. They've got their job. They've got their family. They've got other things to do. And they think that it's okay that if I just listen to Jimmy Kimmel or The View, that they're going to be pretty honest and give me a good viewpoint. And I'll go with that. And unfortunately, people are starting to realize that has become the biggest mistake they can make.
Yeah, no, they have for sure. And it'll be an interesting time ahead. But I think that the solution you posed makes so much sense. It's that's too easy. Of course, they can't just sit down and decide, hey, we need to solve infrastructure. Let's put a plan together. That'd be far too simple. And that's not how it works in this day and age.
No, and sometimes I think that it's meant to be that it's not supposed to work so that nothing actually ever gets accomplished and done. And it's just a further shit show that rolls forward. Because really, if you had rational people, they would just go, okay, all right, let's be honest. We'll take that stuff off. We can get people back to work, get them on the streets, working on building back roads, building this, getting the 5G in. I mean, that you could agree to pretty quickly. But
absolutely.
We're trying to solve the world's problems right here, right now, and I think we're doing a great job.
One step at a time. You and I. That's it. If they just give us the reins, we'll solve the problems. No worries at all. Speaking of solving problems,
yes.
I've got a bit of a pivot for you, but a great report on mining.com talking about non-lithium stationary batteries and how the market's expected to shoot up over the next decade. So the reasoning behind this is kind of saying that there's going to be a massive need for cheaper battery systems. And that's one of the main drivers behind why you're looking at, zinc, sodium, iron as potential, solutions. We talk about lithium ion batteries a lot, the massive potential that they have, but it's making the case for why you would need some cheaper materials in there as well, some more cost-effective batteries, perhaps some actual just smaller, shorter-term ones as well.
Yes, very cool, and that is a good pivot because it does talk about what would hope with the infrastructure and Build Back Better is that this whole electric future is what kind of people want to see, and it's interesting because this ties into the lithium iron or the lithium iron ones in regards to phosphate. Remember when Ariane Phosphate was on here talking about these cheaper, lower chargeability, lower distance to travel, but you can make a lot more like they're cheap, inefficient batteries, but they would go into say a car that's just going to bomb around the city. Not for long haul. You're not going to go off for a very long time. It's not going to be bells and whistles and fancy, but it would be like your 1 Series BMW. There's going to be a lot of that, and it's interesting to see this report because it just shows people too. You don't have to be going for the biggest, brightest, baddest, most high tech battery stuff right now, because there'll be different markets. That'll be the super high end market, and then there'll be the mid range market, and then a low range market. And it's great to see that they've got that article up there, kind of giving us a sense as to what this low end battery market, how big it could be.
Yeah, and it just kind of shows the massive potential that's out there throughout the entire battery space and how much that is going to grow as we need to meet these needs going forward. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of really cool potential avenues where it can go. And like you mentioned, it ties right into phosphate, which I'll just throw this little tidbit out there in regards to phosphate as well. For anyone who's not on or doesn't follow Ariane Phosphate as closely as you and I do, Brian sent out a great kind of email over the weekend, little update that has a link to a talk, which if anyone's interested, reach out to me and I'll be able to send it over to you. Just talking about where does your phosphate come from? And it's more agriculture specific, but it's a great little talk, great little presentation surrounding phosphate and kind of the critical need for it and why it should matter where you're getting it from. So if anyone's interested in that, reach out to me. I'll be happy to send it over to them.
Yes, that's great. I listened to it this weekend. It was really good. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's great. And also, I just want to give a shout out to mining.com is such an awesome website. Once again, we don't have any relationship with them. I just like to share it with people when I find like really great sources of information. And it's an easy website to look at. It's literally all mining all the time. And they have great little articles, little snippets like this that even if you're just new and you want to kind of take a peek and get an idea of, oh, okay, that's interesting. It kind of spurs that imagination of where I could research more into, like this article about the iron, like lithium iron and different types of batteries. That would spur someone on to think, oh, you know what? Maybe I should look into that. And they can just type in Google and put it in and start looking away. That can open up. I find that's what opens up my enthusiasm and excitement for research is when you see a cool headline, it mentions a couple key things in there, and then you start Googling them, and it takes you down a whole rabbit hole of really interesting stuff. And that's what the internet is there for. It's an amazing learning machine. And and this site, like I said, it's great. It's wonderful. I come here maybe not every day, but quite a bit.
Well, and you know what? I'll actually get your thoughts on this. We just saw it there as we've got the website pulled up. There's a great headline there. Rio Tinto picks outgoing Canadian ambassador as to China as chairman. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, see, that's the thing I'm talking about. Is that's a very, I mean, at first blush, you think, okay, great. I mean, so that's kind of interesting news. But you take another layer that you go, oh, interesting. Like a massive major mining company has chosen the ambassador to China. That gives you a very clear indication of where they think the market's going to be going. They're essentially wanting that relationship it would open up that whole market. So it's a great choice for sure. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at China for sure. And if you look at it, which a lot of people do, is just sheer money. Like, oh, let's just think money and where we can sell projects to and how I can make some money. Great. If you're thinking more common sense, long-term, not even political, just how do you want to see the future? Maybe not so great. But in any event, having a relationship there is important, and especially when you're a major conglomerate type of company like this. They know that most of the use of all these metals is being stockpiled by China. We've taken the stance that that's not a good thing. I would certainly much rather it be Canada was stockpiling resources and had them. That makes you incredibly valuable instead of just like taking it and giving it away. Which makes no sense. It makes no sense depending on how one views the world and what your personal belief in liberty and freedom and how you want to live. And certainly mine would not line up with a Justin Trudeau's at all. So it all depends on your viewpoint in the world, what you think it means to be Canadian or Australian or American, compared to, do you just see yourself as a globalist corporate worker? consumer worker consumer without any identity. Yeah, you're part of a global economy. You identify by the brand that you support. I'm a Pfizer Nike guy. I mean, and that's kind of what they would want, and that's how a lot of people kind of see themselves. And they will, I'm waiting for people to start wearing their like Pfizer t-shirts, kind of like they would polo. But maybe we'll see. They
exist. They're out there.
They do. Like, look at me. I'm 50 times jabbed and just slightly ill. Anyways, we'll leave that alone.
Mostly okay.
Mostly okay. I'm super healthy. Anyways, we better leave that alone.
Yeah, exactly.
What else is happening here? I found an article, and this is very interesting. And we're not going to go into too much depth on this one, but this is in regards to uranium and to nuclear power. And it's a headline from the Eurasian Times, and it says China becomes third country to develop floating nuclear reactor, claims it can withstand the rarest of rare storms. Very interesting. They are very far ahead on the nuclear power front. It's it's green and clean. There's debate over that, but really, if you just look at the numbers at a macro level, it is by far. No. It just simply is. There's nuances to it, so I'm not going to pretend like it's a moot, all decided argument. There's lots of people who don't like it for different reasons. There's nuclear waste. There's this. There's that. But if you're just looking at pound for pound, it is the cleanest, the safest, the best way to go. And they are charging far ahead. And I think if you want to find some good debate on back and forth, look at France, which is kind of lighting them back up. They take them off the table before, as they were freezing before, and they had lots of unrest. They're claiming, at least, that they're going to be building out more. Germany is saying they're not going to do it at all, which is a head scratcher. But the France and German debate is interesting because there's your two sides, and they're neighbors. So very interesting if you want to get a little bit more into that.
And they have a habit on not agreeing on much throughout history.
Interesting history there. Yeah.
No, but hey, look, if these floating reactors are up to kind of the potential that it sounds like they're at, that it's a game changer, right? It eliminates some potential levels of risk as well that are associated with nuclear power. Yeah. And if it's now what I'd be curious are these would be out in the middle of the ocean kind of thing, like offshore.
Yeah. So they're saying they're like near some islands in the South China Sea. I suspect, and not to be so negative, it's like kind of like off the coast of Malaysia and Vietnam and places like that where it's away from their necessary coastal waters. Yeah. Just because I'm negative that way. That's what my assumption is. They don't have a map as to where they're putting them, but my guess would be it would be not quite on the coast of any Chinese land, just to be safe. Just to be safe.
You would think. Well, it's very interesting and very exciting. I think we'll also, while we got everyone, we'll let people know our plan for the next couple weeks here. So this is going to be our only show for this week.
Yes.
Obviously, because we've got Christmas and the holidays and everything coming up. And then we'll be back next week. We'll do a couple shows maybe next week going into New Year's. And then we'll be back full time after New Year's.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up because we want some time off, spend time with family. You should. Try absolutely. To ignore all the fear mongering that's out there. The data is easy to find. We're happy to share it. Yep. I occasionally will get someone who boldly steps out and reaches out, and they get some data from me, and I never hear from them again. So I'm not making friends. I don't want to. I don't care. That's not my job. My job is to be as truthful and honest as possible in regards to all things. And part of this job I kind of looked at was to help critical thinking. I mean, everyone should challenge. And I never say you should believe me. You shouldn't believe me about anything. You should be hopefully encouraged enough to go, he seems like an interesting and honest guy. Maybe I should look into that and go look into stuff. I mean, that's part of, you should always question things. And when I hear people say, I did this simply because this person told me to, and I trust them. Well, that's not good. That may have worked years ago in a small town when you all grew up together. You knew the person intimately and you trusted them implicitly. And I hear people say that about their doctor. My doctor said I should just do this. Let me assure you, your doctor is not reading medical journals at night. They're not on the cutting edge of research. And perhaps maybe you have the one that is, and certainly in the States, if you are very wealthy and you have you might have like the cutting edge of the best of doctors, but you certainly don't have in Canada. They are busy enough building a business. They get paid by pharmaceutical companies and the government. So if you want to know where their economic allegiance is, it's very easy to find out the business model they have. And believe me, they're run ragged. They are very, very, very busy. And they often, as the case with OxyContin, trust the pharmaceutical company that they did their homework. They go, oh no, I trust them. They did the research. Everything's fine. And the FDA said it was fine. Well, the FDA and the pharmaceutical companies said everything was fine with OxyContin, and look at the damage they did. So This is, your doctor was just as fast to prescribe you Oxycontin as you would anything else. It doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them anything. It just means if you don't bother to take a little bit of responsibility for your life and yourself, especially when it's something critical and important, you got no one to blame.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I think it comes down to the type of person people are as well. Like, you're either someone who is all right with just kind of, yeah, I'm going to put it in the, I trust X, Y, Z, and that's the direction it's going to go. Or you're like, hey, you know what? I do trust that person's input and opinion, but I got to just take a look myself a little bit here as well to understand things a little bit better. So I think that's what it kind of boils down to as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we should go, but I want to keep talking because I just realized I forgot to mention Trigon, and Trigon's being beaten up a bit. And this is a company that is got an incredible board. It's invested by Sprott, is heavily invested into it as well. It's in Namibia, which we are a big fan of. We love Jed Richardson, who's running the company. He's done such an incredible job getting the combat mine up to processing. I mean, it's successful. They announced their first copper flotation at the processing plant. They're charging ahead during very difficult times. Now, certainly, Africa has not been hit by COVID in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not going to say it's because they have tons and tons of ivermectin there and they take it all the time, but just saying that maybe there's a correlation there. I don't know. But they are able to forge ahead and get everything on target. Really impressive. And this is not near term or near production. They're producing. Yeah. And this is what I like, is these types of companies that are small. They have been largely ignored and producing copper. And they've got a huge blue sky potential. It isn't just, we've got a 43-101. We found a bit of a resource. The dream is done. We're just going to look at revenue and its steady incline. They have a big, big upside. And they've proven that they have the management skills to raise money, get deals done, and to get that plant refurbished, up and running, spick and span, perfect. So very impressed by them, largely ignored by every market, by lots of people. So I like this one. I'm going to like it. I mean, it's like cat's out of the bag. I'm going to like it for next year. Like, unless something happens, I get news in between the end of next year. They've done such a great job. And once again, the last couple of weeks, it's just gotten beaten up. So if you haven't heard about it, reach out to us. Happy to have a chat with you about it. But this is one that you can pick up for right now that's being beaten up a little bit. And I think it's a very compelling story, to say the least.
Well, and for anyone who's interested, your last update chat with Jed Richardson was about a month ago, I believe.
Yes.
Head over to our YouTube channel, check out that video. It's a great little update, kind of introduces to the overall themes, and Jed really lays out what their kind of attack strategy going forward is going to be. So if you're interested in Trigon or don't know a lot about them, I definitely suggest checking out that video.
The other one I just want to give a shout out to is FPX Nickel. So I've always Martin Turan, who's been running that company for years, I consider him a friend. He's a great guy, very smart guy. They had a report out. They just did metallurgical testing, and it's indicated significant recovery improvements. So this one is so interesting because if you remember the video, they in theory, and they've been working with the University of British Columbia, have a net zero carbon mine because of the geology, the specific geology of there. It's complex, of course, but it's very interesting. So if you're a bit of a science geek or like environmentalist, it's because of the type of geology they have there. It's too complex for me to get into right off the bat. And I have a video where Martin does talk about it. But I love these types of projects where, once again, people kind of go, well, will it get developed? Will it not get developed? Well, when you have something like that, where it can be carbon neutral, looking forward, and you look at the big plans, World Economic Forum, you look at what do you call it, BlackRock Capital, they require a very, very sturdy, hardcore list of things that can be developed and projects that can be developed in any capacity, and it has to meet environmental and carbon standards and whatnot. So having that in your back pocket, and you're a mining company, is pretty valuable. So it's a news release today. We won't go into details about it. Happy to share it with anyone, or go check it out off their website. But these are the stories that we like to look at as well.
Yeah, they are for sure. It's really, really exciting story, really encouraging. And yeah, it's great to see that kind of insignificant increase in recovery that they've got lined out.
Perfect. Well, Austin, enjoy the rest of the week.
You as well, Andrew. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I hope the Santa's good to you.
I hope so. I don't know if I earned it this year though.
Oh, you definitely did. You definitely earned it. I also want a lump of coal as well. So Santa, please, I'll take the lump of coal. And if you lived in Europe, in many places, you'd want the coal because energy prices have skyrocketed beyond belief. Because guess what? When you turn off all the power and you don't have a solution, that causes an issue.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Anyways, Merry Christmas. Everyone enjoy your week. I hope you get to spend time with family and friends and lots of love. Turn off the TV and the news and the media and enjoy each other's company. And we look forward to seeing you before the new year. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Take care, guys. We'll chat to you next week.